Satomi Kitaguchi, a 17-year-old high school girl, was returning home to rest after school when an unknown man broke into her home, causing her misfortune. Despite 10 years of investigation, his case had few clues, making it extremely difficult to solve. The case significantly impacted Japanese youth and garnered extensive media coverage. This was the case of a high school girl from Hiroshima Prefecture in 2004. The incident occurred in Hiroshima Prefecture, Japan, a region rich in natural resources with a thriving agriculture and fishing industry that is often regarded as a microcosm of Japan. Hatsukichi, a small town in southwest Hiroshima Prefecture, is a major lumber port in Japan, with a population of 110,000. Satomi Kitaguchi, a student at Hatsukichi High School in Hiroshima Prefecture, serves as the main character in today's story. Satomi and her family lived in Hatsukichi City's Kamihira neighborhood. Their home was a detached structure, with the main building on the left and the annex on the right connected. Satomi's family included 5 people: her father, mother, grandmother, older sister, and herself. Later, they welcomed a younger sister, and they lived happily together. However, on October 5, 2004, tragedy struck their family. What happened, and what misfortunes did Satomi face that day? Let's go back to October 5, 2004 to learn more about the case. Satomi cycled to school early on Tuesday morning, October 5, 2004. That day was slightly different because Satomi would normally be at school all day, but it was exam day, so she was able to leave early and spend the entire afternoon off. Satomi returned home at 1 p.m. Her parents were at work at the time, leaving only her grandmother and younger sister at home, watching TV in the first-floor living room. Satomi greeted them as they entered the house before sitting down to eat lunch alone. After eating, she went to her room because she was tired. Her room was on the second floor of the annex next door, rather than in the main building, which houses the living room. Despite the connection between the buildings, the 2 dormitories remained significantly apart. Satomi usually had to get to her part-time job at 5 p.m. She quickly got into bed, listened to music, and downloaded an app. At 3 p.m., her grandmother and younger sister were watching television in the first-floor living room when they heard a terrifying scream from the upstairs annex. It was Satomi's voice. When the grandmother and younger sister heard the scream, they rushed to the second floor to investigate the situation. They walked from the first to the second floor and entered Satomi's room. The door was open and unlocked. The scene that greeted them when they opened the door surprised them. Satomi lay motionless on the floor beside her bed, covered in blood. Even more terrifying, a strange man stood next to Satomi, wielding a knife. The man appeared to be about 20 years old, with short hair. The grandmother and younger sister were terrified as they watched this scene. The younger sister, terrified, dashed downstairs, ran out of the house, and hid in a flower shop 50 meters away. She sobbed and informed the shopkeeper, "My sister has suffered a stab wound." Satomi's grandmother, terrified, tried to flee. However, beginning with the door opening, the short-haired man stood still for a few seconds before tightening his grip on the knife and stabbing the grandmother 4 times in the back, causing her to collapse. The man then hastily exited the house. Fortunately, none of the repeatedly stabbed wounds penetrated the grandmother's vital organs. Despite her exhaustion, she managed to sit up and try to save her granddaughter, who was lying nearby, but to no avail. She was concerned about Satomi's younger sister, and she feared that the man would also harm her. Despite the pain, she clutched her wounds tightly, endured them, returned to the first-floor living room, and called the cops before passing out. When authorities received the report, they immediately dispatched personnel to the scene, and police and ambulances arrived shortly thereafter. When they entered the house, they discovered the grandmother lying on the floor, next to the emergency phone. They found Satomi dead in a pool of blood in her second-floor bedroom. A forensic examination revealed multiple stab wounds on her body, with the fatal one near her heart. The body showed no signs of assault. The police then looked into the terrain near Satomi's house, believing that if the perpetrator fled after the crime, he could have hidden in nearby homes or escaped via the river. If he had fled the city, he could have gone in multiple directions, making the search difficult. The police immediately began searching for witnesses and conducting investigations into nearby residents' homes. Unfortunately, The incident occurred at 3 p.m., when there were few people walking down the street and no one noticed anyone running out of Satomi's house. As a result, the police were unable to determine the suspect's escape route, which significantly complicated the investigation. Satomi's grandmother, who was rushed to the local hospital's intensive care unit during this time, miraculously survived thanks to prompt emergency treatment. Meanwhile, evidence collection at the crime scene was ongoing. The police obtained an unidentified person's fingerprints from the scene. These fingerprints were not from anyone in Satomi's family, implying that they belonged to the perpetrator discovered on the bedroom floor. The police found several identical shoe prints, presumably left by the hastily fleeing perpetrator. They identified the brand and model based on the shoe prints, which ranged in size from 26 to 27 centimeters. The police also discovered some skin fragments under Satomi's nails and extracted them for DNA testing to determine her identity. However, despite the discovery of critical evidence, solving the case remains challenging. Fortunately, Satomi's grandmother and younger sister witnessed the perpetrator's face. During the interrogation, they vividly remembered the murderer's appearance. Based on their descriptions, the police were able to construct a composite sketch of the man. He was described as they described him as having short hair, slanted eyes, prominent acne on his face, a muscular build, standing 1.65 meters tall, and approximately 20 years old. Hiroshima police felt more confident. They were confident that identifying the person in the sketch, along with other evidence such as shoe prints, fingerprints, and DNA, would lead them to the perpetrator. As a result, the police distributed the sketch to Satomi's family, neighbors, classmates, and passersby in the hopes that someone would recognize him. Unfortunately, no one did, resulting in an impasse in the investigation. Satomi's untimely death caused enormous pain for her family. Even more disturbing was that the suspect went unidentified, with no one seeing him, as if he had vanished without a trace. Satomi's parents had saved 3 million yen for her future tuition, but no one anticipated the tragedy that befell her. His father was deeply saddened and angry, vowing never to forgive the murderer. He decided to use the entire savings, originally intended for Satomi's tuition, as a reward for anyone who could provide useful information. He distributed reward posters throughout Japan, from remote alleys to bustling public areas and police stations, to raise awareness about Satomi's case. Despite the limited evidence, Hiroshima police investigated over 40,000 people for the next 15 years. As time passed and the murderer remained at large, Satomi's father created a personal website in the form of a diary, which he maintained and updated for more than 10 years. He wrote about his emotions and the latest developments in the case. During that time, he wrote over 4,000 entries in his diary. He missed his daughter every day and hoped that one day he would find the murderer and bring justice to his poor daughter. In 2015, Hiroshima Prefecture police invited experts from other provinces, including the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit. Established to aid in criminal investigations through scientific behavioral analysis, this unit has assisted in the resolution of numerous cases. The investigation team examined the crime scene and re-interviewed some of the residents. Following a thorough investigation using criminal psychology, they discovered that the perpetrator had no intention of killing Satomi that year. Several other events occurred during the investigation, prompting the perpetrator to commit the act. 11 years after the crime, they used modern technology and the police portrait to recreate the suspect's appearance. The computer-generated portrait more closely resembles the suspect than previous sketches because the shape of a person's eyes does not change with age. However, despite the BAU expert's assistance, the case did not move forward immediately. In April 2018, when everyone expected the decades-long case to remain unresolved, an extraordinary event took place. That day, police in Yamaguchi Prefecture, Japan, received a call from a man claiming to work for a construction company there. He reported that his boss had kicked him in anger, resulting in a scuffle, and asked for police assistance. The police arrived at the construction company, where the boss, 35-year-old Manabu Kashima, had been a long-time employee for more than 15 years. Due to workplace conflicts, Kashima became enraged and kicked his subordinate. The subordinate felt wronged and asked the police for help. Despite everyone's fear, no one dared to report the incident until a worker, severely kicked by Kashima, spoke up. It was only a minor disagreement, so after the police arrived, both parties agreed to settle. However, according to protocol, the police were still required to file a report and take statements. When preparing to take Kishima's fingerprints, he appeared nervous, which drew the police's attention. After entering his fingerprints into the database for comparison, the results revealed a match to the fingerprints of the suspect who murdered Satomi 14 years ago. Kishima lives in Yuba City, Yamaguchi Prefecture. Yamaguchi Prefecture is located on the outskirts of Hiroshima Prefecture, approximately Hatsuki from Yuba City. The city is about 100 kilometers away, so Kishima could have been the perpetrator. When Satomi's grandmother and younger sister estimated Kishima's age at 20, he was 35 years old at the time of his arrest. The Yamaguchi police suspected Kishima of being a major criminal and handed him over to the Hiroshima police. The owner of the construction company where Kishima worked heard the news, and he stated that Kishima was always hardworking and had a positive attitude at work. He couldn't believe that his 15-year-old employee would do such a thing. This helped everyone understand the phrase, "no person, no face, but no heart." Upon his initial police arrest, Kishima declined to confess to the crime. However, when confronted with irrefutable evidence such as fingerprints and DNA, Kishima admitted to the heinous crime he committed over a decade ago, claiming that he had no knowledge of Satomi. In 2004, Kishima worked for a metal processing company in Hagi City. Kishima lived alone in a dormitory near his workplace, and after years of enduring work, pressure, and a lack of outlet, he decided to leave everything behind and travel to Tokyo's Akihabara. He passed through Hiroshima on his way to Tokyo. Kishima noticed Satomi standing in the street on his way home from school. He decided to follow her home at noon, hoping for an opportunity to rape her. After observing, he was determined to break into Satomi's house, rush up to the second floor, and enter her bedroom. Satomi bravely resisted, which enraged him. He fatally stabbed her. Kishima's defense attorney claimed that the crime was the result of long-term work pressure and that he had no prior intention of killing Satomi. Impulsive behavior caused the tragedy, and the lawyer hoped for a light sentence from the court. On March 18, 2020, the Hiroshima Prefecture Court issued its final ruling in the case. The judge stated that the perpetrator had evaded justice for a long time and had finally been apprehended. He caused severe pain to the victim's family and had a negative impact on society. Kishima received a death sentence for his murder. Since then, the well-known case in Japanese society has found resolution. Following the trial, Satomi's family, which had suffered for so long, saw a ray of hope. Satomi's father apologized on his blog for not being able to protect his daughter. Despite the story's conclusion and the serving of justice, the pain persisted. Satomi's father continues to express his feelings, and he feels a lot of guilt toward his daughter. The loss of a loved one is extremely painful, especially given Satomi's brutal murder. What are your thoughts on today's case? Please leave a comment below so we can discuss it together. If you found this interesting, please like and subscribe to help us.